Welcome back, everybody, to another inquiry series, A Way Through with Michelle Terrill-Heath, the author of Your Wildest Dreams, A Parkinson's Love Story, a book just talking about all of the trials and tribulations and treasures of going through this wonderful life that you've been through, Michelle. One thing we talk about here on this inquiry series is your Substacks. And today I want to say I really have to honor you for all the listeners just very quickly because they can go back and listen to all the things. But you really know how to take a pearl out of a real problem in life, and that's something that the Substacks are always echoing to me, is that you really know how to pull a gift out of something that feels like garbage, in life.
Yes, guy.
And
Oh,
I think that's a good place to start because we talk about these 4 tools that you're using right now, and one of them is called Reframe. And that kind of comes up in this Camino. I won't give it away to the readers too much, but it's about meditation and the Camino. And my question to you is, um, how can you reframe when you're in such a desperate situation like you were in Spain, when you were injured and you were totally disoriented? Where do you find the courage and the strength to do that?
thank you for that question. I definitely think it starts with one thing that is primary and essential to each person. It could be a different thing. For me, that one thing is my breath,
Wow.
and for people, it can be different things. For me, if I can go in a terrible, the night I was at the hospital in Bilbao, Spain. The first night, I was just put in this room in this little, cubicle in a bed, and there were many people all around me because it was the equivalent of a intensive care in a hospital in our country, and all night, I heard people crying and moaning and calling out for help, and there was nothing I could do except lay in this bed, but it was very, disconcerting. I was afraid for my situation because I didn't know what was gonna happen. I didn't know how badly I'd hurt my leg. I didn't know if I was gonna need surgery. I didn't know what was gonna happen, and I couldn't speak the language for the people there, so that was a very tricky kind of situation for me, and when people started moaning and calling out in obviously distressed pain, I really started to pray in a different way. To God, but also I started to breathe. And my breath, when I breathe deep breaths and focus on that, it brings me back to a centered place in myself, no matter where I am, what's going on. And so it starts with whatever that is for you. For me, it's my breath.
Mm.
For someone else, it could be a chant. For somebody else, it could be a way of moving their hands or moving their body in some way, or it could be talking to somebody, or I mean, there's endless things that will
Yeah.
bring you back to yourself. And I think all of us inherently know. And if you don't know and you're listening to this is something you need to find out like ASAP until what is that thing for you? Because what happens is it's a momentum builds and it's like a house of dominoes. Like, if you can start breathing, then that leads to the next thing. And, for me, what I remember in that hospital is that I was pretty disoriented. Really went from one direction of going to be walking all these miles every day in this beautiful countryside with these people who I enjoy being with, to I'm in this bed in this hospital and I don't know how long it's going to be or how I'll get any help. And once I started breathing and focusing on that, then that led me to, your own body kinda helps you. Suddenly I had to urinate.
One step at a time, one pee at a time, right?
Pure sense. So then I started calling out, "Hello, hello, hola, hola, help, help." And somebody came. And when that person came, then I was able to show that I needed to go use the bedpan, and she was able to help me with all that, and suddenly I was, like, in my breath, and I'm seeing that people are distressed around me. It's middle of the night, but I got somebody to help me, and suddenly I didn't feel so alone because I had this nurse bringing me a bedpan. Wasn't a big deal, but then one step leads to the next, which leads to the next.
That's beautiful, Michelle. And I think, breath definitely goes along with the topic of the Substack, which it's about meditation. So obviously, breath and meditation is a meditation in some ways. I also want to just call out the fact that you mentioned praying to God or whatever it is that people pray to, because the
Right.
breath is so, I think, synonymous with spirit. And so when you connect with that, it's the unseen force. It's sort of like, the faith in things unseen. It's the breathing. So I just wanted to call that out really quickly. And before we end our short talk today, um, let's talk a little bit about the reframe. So I think what was two things you can talk about. One could be Parkinson's, because you do open with that in the Substack. But I think more about the Camino, because it was the Camino that, you wanted. It's not the Camino that you wanted, but it's the Camino that you got. And that
Right.
for me, that sentence alone for me was the reframe. We wanna talk a little bit about, just because, like, that's the reframe part, right? Like,
Yep,
okay,
exactly. The thing that happened to me with the Camino was having to change my idea of a Camino from being a very, strenuous physical activity for 2 weeks of walking every single day, staying in, lovely spots, uh, little places that are like either convents or little hotels or little, uh, uh, dormitory places, and catching our food on the way and having this amazing adventure. It was a pilgrimage. A Camino is always a pilgrimage. And so I had to change my idea of my pilgrimage, my Camino, to being very, very still and being very, very quiet in a bed, and to focusing more inward and allowing myself to grow within those circumstances that were given to me by the universe, by God, by circumstances, and be able to, instead of becoming very discouraged, which did happen for a short time, um, really reframing it into, okay, well, then I'm supposed to learn something from this experience, and I'm going to learn something from this experience, and being very determined to do that. And at the time, I really didn't know what I was learning, but now I see it very clearly. And my time as a caregiver for my husband with Parkinson's all these years, I'm very often I'm the one standing, so I'm the one that has to figure stuff out. I'm the one that has to, figure out how to take our next step with the next symptom, with the next problem, with the next issue.
or even things as small as, like, taking care of things in the house that Andy used to take care of, like building a fire, which I just found out about, which is, all the little things that you guys did in partnership that just, now are all on your shoulders.
Yep. So now that Camino is a constant inspiration to me, because I realize that I can reframe anything into something that is acceptable and better than acceptable, that is actually going to help me grow in my life and help me do the work that I've been given. So that's the reframe. And the Camino, I wrote about it in that Substack because, yeah, the next one will be about meditation. And what is also interesting with meditation is the breath is a meditation, of course. And yet the meditation that's really working for me and Andy really has very little to do with the breath. It's really not something you focus on. It's more like focusing off, not focusing on.
The transcendental meditation for the listeners, so they, or that they are like, yes, it goes back, of course, because it's definitely where the source came from.
So we'll talk about that next time. But I'm very, very grateful for that Camino, and that was a Camino I needed to have.
Yeah,
The things I learned inform me almost every single day.
yeah, I
And when
think,
you have a hard situation, consider that maybe this is going to help you in some future time that you don't not even aware of yet.
yeah. Well, that's your gift, and in your wildest dreams, that's what we learn, is that you've been living this type of way for a very long time that prepared you for this moment. You don't just, go on this type of Camino without living your whole life being very much in that reframe mindset. So we all have a lot to learn from you, Michelle, and thank you for going places, that a lot of us haven't been before and pioneering that path for us so you can reframe things. And also for just being so willing to touch the divine with, your breath and with your prayer and with your example and who you are. Um,
There's one close on one last thing, and that is anyone can do this.
Yeah.
Absolutely anyone can do
Yeah.
this.
I think that's a beautiful thing too. We may not have as much school and training as you've had in our past, because many of us have been fixed, and you've been very much, um, I think, malleable in your life approach, which has been tremendously helpful. So I think if anything, your flexibility has like helped you with everything in life. Uh, you guys, thank you so much for joining us again on this lovely little chat. Please, share your comments with us. Let us know what you're thinking. Have you been on a pilgrimage before? How do you reframe things in your own life if, like, you've missed your train, or I don't know, relationships falling apart, or whatever's going on? How do you turn something that's lead into gold? That alchemy. Share that with us, please. Comment, like, share, subscribe. Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for joining us. Ciao.